So we got the next one on the list is going to be the Gundam Perfect Strike Freedom, which when I went over and learned from unboxing this already, was that it's just a combination of Strike, Perfect Strike, and Freedom with it's basically a massive backpack kit. So I don't know if it'll stand up on its own, but it should be pretty interesting to build. So let's get all the parts out, take a look at the runners, and then we'll get to building it. Okay, so now we're back out of the time-lapse speed frame. This is the instruction book. I'm going to go over this first. Doesn't look like there was too much new things. Actually, I'll go over it right now so we can just get it out of the way. And it's just the... No, still do it on its own. So, I'll go over these really quick. Each runners, I'll talk mostly about the new ones, not so much about the reused runners. And then we can move on to the snap build. Okay, so the first thing is these stickers are very light. Looks like we're just getting the metallics for the sensors and the eyes. Looks like there's some straight chrome lenses there, like with no with no markings on them. Interesting. It'd be interesting to see what that is. So pretty sticker light, which is good. And then the manual. See some components. Looks like the most custom part is going to be the backpack. It's quite a bit redesigned, a lot longer, a little more organic, if that's the right word. Take a look, see if there's anything new. Yeah, it looks like the back is the biggest. The backpack is the biggest. The booster pack, and then the extra components for the strike dragoon little laser cannon things, little shield, little grabbers. So not too much. It doesn't seem like this one's the very a very design inventive or very original design. It seems like they just took the two components and went, well, let's put all the stuff on each of these. So it's going to be a very basic combination of Strike and Freedom. If you're into that, this is the kit for you. Let's get it built. No, let's not get it built. Let's look at all the runners really quick. So it's going to be really fast. Up next. Alright, so these are actually some of the new runners for the 2021, so specifically for this kit. So it looks like we're taking the entire booster in the back, and they're redesigning it, making it quite a bit longer, and change the shape around. So this should be interesting to see. This is probably the most interesting, the part I'm most interested in is to see what this looks like when it's all put together. So not a whole lot I can show you, it being black runners, but definitely new designs to the back parts. Which if you are familiar with the little boosters that go on the backs of these Strike, the ashtrays, all that stuff, they're quite cool looking. I like the way they look. So this should be the thing that helps support the kit on its own. So that'd be runner, was it runner B? B1, B2. Alright, and those are new for 2021. We got some spare from the Strike. These would be just the certain Strike components. Looks like some parts of the feet. Don't know if we'll actually use those, but these are going to be the little dragoon binder bits, I believe. So that's old stuff. Just reusing them from Freedom. So here's a nice new one. This is going to be your new weapons for the Strike, for the Perfect Strike. Change up. There's a little bit of an off-white color there to certain components. That should be pretty interesting. Very thin V-fin here. Watch your hands on this one. And then a new redesign of the weapons and back components. Focus is terrible. Reused parts for C, and this can be reused from Freedom, I believe. Reused beam effect parts. Then reused from the internal frames from Strike or Freedom. I don't really know which one, but these are just nothing new and creative on these. Just some nice joints and arm components, legs, waist, hands. Nice set of open hands though. Nice set of open manipulators with expressions. That's pretty cool. Like that. At least it's a left and a right. Oop. A lot of times we don't get the lefts and the rights. And to round out your runners, we have the A1, A2 from the Strike series to get the legs and shoulder components and some of the waist and head going with that. So those are our last two, is again a set of reused for Strike. Nothing new and original here. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm collecting them. So here, there they all are. Let's go ahead and get this built. Perfect Strike Freedom. You'll notice a lot of similarities and little pared down features from the other kits from the Perfect Strike and Freedom going on here. So the biggest thing is it's almost all backpack. I mean, just look at that, and that's not even without because the second gun can run along this side too, and just the sword alone, it's given it such. I had to zoom out so far so you can just see all of it's going on. So this on its own is a very impressive backpack silhouette. So like the Helios had a good shape going up, this is all about the shape going backwards. Like from the front doesn't look very big, and you turn it to that angle and it's just so much going on back there. Let me try to zoom in a little. So you can see a lot of the options for the Perfect Strike. It's been pared down a lot, so it's just very minimal. It's been changed around in this. This piece comes off, so it's like taking the grabber claw from there and actually putting it up here. And then the sword and gun can combine together. You'll see that in a little bit, but make an even bigger sword weapon. And then all these little red dragoon parts from the Freedom can come off, but a big caveat there is they come off, but you have no way to mount them on anything. There's nothing that comes in this that allows you to mount those pieces on to make any kind of an effect. So you can take them off if you want and, you know, put a little sticky tack or tape or grab them with a claw on the action base. But for the most part, those things, when they come off, they have nowhere to go. You can put a wire on them, but, you know, you're out of luck there. And then you have some of the rail guns up here, which turn and spin and can, you know, unfold. Let me try to get that unfolded. Yeah, so you get a little rail gun option there. And you can see one of the first issues that I had is because the backpack is so big, it's gonna pop off when you're messing with it a lot. It's still on a 2 standard peg, so it's not going to be coming off all the time. But you know, if you start tweaking it, it will find its way loose. So be aware of that. But again, this thing is very impressive on the back. It's one of my favorites. It's got a lot going on and it's pretty stable. The waist joint is just still a single ball joint, but it's not. It's got a secondary joint up in the. Well, I'll talk about it when I open this up a little bit more. But the waist is a little bit better, a little bit more sturdy than the other ones that I've dealt with. So it's got a good frame. It can stand on its own. It can pose well. Nothing feels very loose. I do it definitely in an action, like a flying pose, get a simple base to give it its most, but it will stand on its own with the back pack the way it is. That'll be one question that I know everyone's asking is, can this stand on its own? It can, but it needs to be supported by these bottom parts. You'll see from the pose shots where it needs to support itself. It won't stand under its own weight, but that's, you know, that's just what's going to happen with something like this. I mean, it's all backpack, which is very cool, and that's why I liked it. Is that for that shape? So let's do a little bit closer ups, and maybe I'll go over the extra parts next, or I'll just talk a little bit more about the weaponry, things like that. So let's talk about the next part. But so far, I'm really liking this. Let's see a few more poses, see how well it stands out. It wasn't too difficult. A build. It was very straightforward, very simple. One of the big things is on this side, it's very easily just mounted on a very small little pin and peg, and this comes off and it's like a wired, you know, I think it's a very cool shape. But the other side, the gun, it's all mounted in, locked in. So let me zoom in on that. So this is locked into here. So you'd have to take apart the entire shoulder to remove this if you wanted to. So that's one thing. It's not like the other strike, or you know, it's not like the other Perfect Strike, the real grade or the real grade or the high grade, where here's the real grade, where if you wanted to, you know, you remove that portion if you want. So it can't really do that, but not a big deal. High grade, it's what you're gonna get. Kind of have to learn to live with it. So while I have this here, since I just went over that, you can see this is the real grade version of the Perfect Strike, and then we can see where they kind of went with it and took it down from. So it's a very simplified version of it, and I do appreciate that, and I like it. It still has the very nice shape to it, but they've definitely taken it in a more subtle direction. But you still get the same effects in there that you would, and then you get a bigger backpack along with it. I'll talk about anything else. So the waist is good. It's better on this one. Backpack's very heavy, so you'll need to have supports on here. Already talked about that. What are the things I like? I really like the shape of this and how it opens and moves. I think I will mold this in the future because that shape is very cool for like antenna or fingers. I can't really decide yet, but very good solid joints, solid ankles. You can stand this up no problem. It has very impressive shape going backwards. With the it's very good. It is a very interesting silhouette. Look at that energy part out there. I guess not. I'll deal with that later. Cool. Yeah. So I couldn't find anything really unbearably painful. Oh yeah, there was that one. Okay, I didn't end up having to glue this. So let's get that. So as you can see, that's going to want to come up a lot, but I think if you've dealt with these kind of kits before, it's not that big a deal. It's actually kind of nice that comes up with it, but you might need to glue that, and I did have to glue the red, the yellow, and the white V-fin and components together because they kept, I hit here and I knock it right off. So I didn't have having to glue that just for mine. Watch out for that. Those three will get knocked off, and the red is a very tiny piece, which is going to be very hard to find. But it does come out in the whole block here, which is, you know, kind of cool, I guess. Pretty easy to get it back down. If there's anything else that I had main issue. I mean, mostly it was just a pleasure. I think I talked about it before, how if you don't have there are all the Dragoon pieces, all the red on the backpack come off. The problem is there's no real mounting point to them. You could put some wire in there, or you know, there's not really, you could do something. I mean, it looks ugly, but you know, that's just me lightly putting it in there. That's just putting under the tight spot. So you could have a peg, or you could put some wires out to hold them up so that it's, you know, it's like the effect is happening, and there are some of the effects parts for I think the Zeong and things like for the new, but there's no real way to lock him in. So this is holding pretty good, but it doesn't come with anything. So except that you're not really going to have an easy way to mount these to make them, you know, do their effect. They look very cool, and all the backpack is 100% different, made specifically for this, but it is on a 2-peg, so you could pot this over onto just about anything that shares those 2 back pegs. But watch out for them; they will start to get loose just like that. Watch out for this shoulder piece wants to come up. Trying to think anything else else too difficult, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's so far it's my favorite because of that backpack. It's very spiky. Everything is going back and out and very sharp. I still think Blazing is still my favorite just because of the just the glowing foot and the shape. But this is number 2, I think, on that list. I'm really enjoying this one. So let's do a couple more shots, close-ups, and I'll go over the... Okay, so I loved the way this one was built together. I love the way the shoulders went. I'm impressed by the Strike series, Seed Destiny, I believe, when it comes to that. Just for the backpacks in general, that shape. Like I have, what do we got? The Real Raid, which you know that falls apart pretty easy. But I just love that shape of the Striker backpack. Fix that later. But I love that. This shape, this kind of an, you know, everything's an X design, but I love that way that backpack works on this one, and this one's even bigger and a different kind of very harsh shape, very sharp, and I did appreciate that, and I like the colors going through it. So far it's my favorite. I already talked about, or I'm going to talk about, which parts I didn't really care for, and there's not that many of them. It's just about loose parts. But for everything else, it fits real nice, has a really nice silhouette. I think you'll enjoy it a lot, so I'm just going to do some close-ups. You can see the machine gun there. Everything's very kind of... everything's kind of sanded down in a way. Everything's pared down. It's made smaller. Here, let me get these off real quick. So, look at that. I can just stand like that. So let's go back out while hanging out. So one of the big things I love about the combination of these two is combining the gun and the sword to make even bigger I don't remember the term or the name for it. You know, you can yell at me, tell me what it is, but it's one of like the anti-ship swords, I believe, but something nice and big like that. So very simple, very impressive. Look at that, don't even need it. So that's one of the problems with all ball joints is the tendency for the flap. So really impressive giant sword to come here, and it's just that nice with having the 2 components there. It's just an interesting profile and redesign for this weapon. I think if you get it just for the weapons too and the backpack, you'll be happy. Let's get that back on there. See if you can hold it. Yeah, look at that. Very big, very nice. Love it. Okay, so let's get that off. I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's... Bear with me. These hands are pretty easy to take on and off. They just suffer from the having to pop the top off the whole way. So, I've removed it. And each one, there's a small peg right there. And you just place either or. I'm sure there's a specific side. And then now you have all the way with everything mounted to the back. So everything connects to the backpack. So that adds a lot of weight. Again, see, I'm having to press it in as I'm working with it just now. But you'll end up with this really nice profile going up on the backpack, and you can just, there's just so much going on back there, and I love that shape. There's so much. It's all backpack. So if you enjoy that shape and that design, then you're going to really enjoy this. So try to find this. If you're going to find any of them, this is my number one at the moment. I'm just going to go ahead and commit to it. This is definitely my most favorite. Okay. I think I'm going to go over really quick, just show you I don't have the high grade of any of the Strike or Freedom. That's one of the ones I don't really have a lot of, but I got the real grade Perfect Strike. So I'm going to show you just where, what all these components came from, what they're pared down from, which I'm sure you already know, but in case you're not familiar. So bigger version of the Striker, or the backpack, I'm just going to call a Strike Pack, even if I'm not correct. You'll correct me. You always will. This is one of my favorite designs for backpacks. I just love these extra bottom pieces here. I really wish I could find more. I wish I could find that third-party one again. I don't remember what it was called. It was very cool looking. It was it had a lot longer pieces down the back. I think it's like the ones that went with the Nilsson Perfect Grade, or the Nilsson 160 Ashtray red frame. They had longer bottom parts. It looked very cool, almost like squid suction cup hands, if that makes sense. Like the long part. But beyond that, so there's your Strike Pack. Much bigger and more impressive with this one. You can see the difference at scale is very much larger. Then you have the pared down version of that. The machine gun arm, which I like the real grade one on this. The belt that's in the back, the ammo belt, the little shield there, fin. It's a very cool shape. I mean, maybe one of these, if I find still trying to figure out what perfect grade I would do if I ever had to do one. Ashtray most likely, but Strike's not bad. And then you have here the blue side. So that's what this would be that little laser boomerang dagger whatnot that went with the sword. The sword being, so that's the version of that pared down, but also much larger when it combines with the rifle. Again, much more detailed on the real grade and even the high grade, whereas the rifle on this one is much more simplified and actually more sword-like to be able to combine to that full final sword. But you can just see where the components came from, where they were originally, and that's all I really wanted to show. Was in case you weren't familiar with the Strike, and just see how much bigger certain components are. I mean, look at that. Very impressive. Yeah. Oh man, that's not holding up good at all. Either way. So, cool. Move on to the next. about just a few of the main issues. Nothing that big. Waist is pretty strong. Has a little bit of trouble holding up the backpack even when posed. It wants to droop down, but it will hold it for a little bit. You're just going to find that pose and stick with it. But it is a better waist than all the ones combined. The joints on this are very good. Most of the Seed Destiny kits are high-grade kits are pretty good and pretty decent. Backpack is very heavy. Everything deals on the backpack. You got to watch. It'll start loosening on the back, little back pegs here. So just you have to tighten them up every now and again, or you're gonna have the whole backpack fall off. So if you want to, when you store it, like if you want to store it without the backpack on, for certain things, like if you're worried about it falling, either tighten up the pegs with a little bit of top coat after, doing the tightening up method where you let it dry. But for the most part, I would, leave it off. If, when you're until you've posed it or found a good spot for it, or for painting it, it'll be nice and tight. Seams, I'm not going to really go over it. It's about as expected for a high grade. Very nice feet, very nice parts. I think if you haven't built any of the Seed Strike kits, this would be a good one to start on, because you get a lot of extra stuff in it. But for the most part, the profile is very similar to the Perfect Strike. It's just a few little extra differences for the putting in the Freedom in there. But I couldn't really find any other problems. The main one, I think I talked about this, but I'll talk about it again, is the V-fin. All three of them, the yellow, the red, and the white, tend to pop off very easily. The gun component here doesn't come off. It's mounted into the arm, the shoulder piece itself. This one does come out, but the peg itself is mounted in there just like the other. All the forearm parts come loose, just like normal. There's nothing mounted on there. So the only real problems are, again, V-fin pops off. Backpack is very backpack heavy. Waist can support almost all the time, but double check that. And it won't really stand up on its own without these resting on the ground. But it looks fine with that the way it does. So it will stand up, obviously, in a posed position on a action base. So I found nothing really extra wrong about it. My favorite so far. So not a lot of problems. Let's move on to something else. Cool. These are the extra parts that are left over from the Perfect Strike Freedom. I didn't put, there were two stickers that I didn't put in the I think in the weapons or the sensors. Didn't really remember what they were, but it was two minor things. Again, these are such a small amount of stickers. It was very nice. It's almost nothing. So you have not an extra piece. I just never mounted it. You have a shield for the blue side of the arm. You have some effects parts for the other sword when they're combined. I'll show that in a second. Then you have a arm piece that goes on there. A little nice square bladed piece, kind of left over from the... oh yeah, and you have a bunch of the... I don't know where they are now, but I took them. You have a whole runners, I think, for the Destiny and Strike and Freedom and Perfect Strike, the little laser beam effects that have these square rectangle pegs at the bottom. You have a whole run of those. I think I already put them in the beam effects bin. If you remember from the last video, got a lot of those. So cool stuff there. And they're very minimal extra parts. You have a couple beam sabers and mounts. This is the cool part. I like this. So I think that was for Freedom. Yeah, it's for Freedom or Justice. Don't know. Either way. Point is, if you are interested, you got a nice little beam saber there, the ones that can combine, and then you have a little mounting plate there, which is on a very easy point. You could just glue this straight down, and then just there you go. So a little nice extra beam saber that is not really needed for this kit, but you have it for future, and it has a nice standard 144 scale tiny peg. What we got? What else we got? A couple more mechanical mounting parts, V-fin, chest parts, extra arm parts that aren't used, some of the backpack little vents and thruster parts, a whole section of the inner torso there, the waist, but nothing to write home about. Nothing as much as the Helios, but you have some interesting parts. I think you'll be happy with them. I mean, it's not like this is just what you're going to have left over. So not that much, but still some cool stuff, some beam effects, and I think you'll be happy. Any final thoughts? Yeah, if you can find it, get it. You'll be very happy. It strikes a really great pose. Very sharp. I like it a lot. Hope you enjoy it too. Thank you. Bye.